Hi, it's Maria, and I think you're going to really like this. When we agreed to becoming human, as we all did, we agreed to be challenged. And the way we handle those challenges really defines us as individuals. And so when you look around, what is it that we see? I used to do this in airports. I find them fascinating, actually, because there are so many people bustling around trying to find their way, and they all look so different. And you have what appears to be the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor there. I used to ask myself, if I had to change places with someone there, who would it be? And I'd look and I'd look, and regardless of how they were dressed or the type of luggage they had, I really didn't care. And I thought, there's just no one I would trade places with. I didn't think that there was anyone that had as good a life as I had. And so I finally realized that actually it is because of the struggles that we have are perfect for us, given the strengths and the know-how that we were born with. And so I can do things that you can't do. And you, of course, can do things that I can't do. And so therefore, when we look around and we see people struggling and they feel lost and hopeless, and yet what if our greatest challenge is not the obvious ones that we've read about, like our health and our love life and our finances, and if we're going to lose 5 pounds, and maybe if we're going to cover the gray. But instead, our greatest challenge is to see through the illusion of it all that stops us from living the life of our dream, and to embrace where we are right now, with what we have right now, and with who we're with right now, as if we chose it all, which many people will tell you that actually that is what happens. We do choose it on a subconscious level. And someday, hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll understand that we're not just a byproduct of lust and a mind-blowing orgasm, but in fact, we all have a purpose here, and we've defied odds in order to take our place on this planet as an incarnated being. And some say that that actually the odds are 1 in 400 trillion, if you can believe that one. And so that's what they say. I don't know who pulled out their calculator and figured out that one. We've chosen to incarnate now, and maybe we volunteered and then we were chosen to take on a body at this point in time in the evolution of humanity and of our cute little blue-green planet. And so to fulfill our purpose, or as the French say, to fulfill, it's our raison d'etre, which is our reason for being, we have to encounter those individuals and those circumstances that support us, as well as those that oppose us, because that's part of their purpose as well. And so some of us, are in the light, and we're kind and we're loving human beings, while others of us are in the dark. And they're here to rape and pillage and destroy. And it's like the yin and the yang. And so quite honestly, I absolutely believe that it's so much better to be the good guy, even when it's really tough. And when it's really tough to even keep our head above the waterline, right? Than it is to be the criminals who've sold their soul to be our adversaries and to try to take us down. I mean, really, who would be proud to say that actually they spent this lifetime being an evil human being, right? A narcissist or a psychopath or a liar or a criminal or a thug or a wacko, right? But the bottom line is to remember that we are divine. And because on a soul level we are divine, it's a matter of our embodying it. And when we realize that we are love personified, that's a huge revelation, right? And so we are here to love ourselves unconditionally, and we are to love others unconditionally as well, whether we know them personally or not. And just think about that, because that's huge. not only are we to love someone we don't know, but we are to love them unconditionally. And that is so amazing because so many people on this planet right now are having such difficulty even loving their spouse or their family members or their mother, if you can believe that. And so as we travel the road to love, we awaken slowly but surely, and we navigate through lifetimes, overcoming obstacles and challenges and hardships and diagnoses and even financial and emotional bankruptcy. And we have to overcome these on a personal level in order to move forward. And even the seeming tragedies, that are so horrific that most people can't even ever get over, actually. And here's the key. It's incumbent that we understand that what happens to us actually happens for us. When we rewrite the horrors that we've been through that become our identity, some of us wear a neon sign and they tell everyone they know, whether they're asked or not, "Psst, psst, come here. Did you know that my husband had a heart attack when he was cheating with my best friend? Oh my gosh." Or, "My son Sam is now my daughter Sam." Oh, double. Oh my gosh, right? Or, "My home is being foreclosed on and I'm going to have to live in a car." Oh, or how about this one? My pet gerbil, Lulu, has just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So you see, there are people that are in extreme overload for whatever the circumstances that they are going through. And some of us may think, oh, well, we can get through that. But others of us don't have the tools in order to be able to get through that and how to cope. And so that's why I think so many of us, or not so many of us, but so many people on the planet right now will pop a Xanax or grab a pint of Ben and Jerry's, right? And put on their PJs and sit in front of the TV and watch Home Shopping and start to order there. So because they feel forever scarred and damaged because it's all just too much. And they want to go home. Many of them do, in fact, want to go upstairs. And so it's for those who persevere despite what's thrown at them. They keep going and they're like Energizer bunnies. And the truth is that everyone is pushed, but the deck is actually stacked in our favor. And did you need to hear that one again? The deck is actually stacked in our favor. Yay! And so when that happens, we can believe that our challenges are actually gifts reserved for the bright, the brave, and the beautiful. And the wonder of that is that we are actually all bright and brave and beautiful. And so we can rewrite the story to be one of Wonder Woman overcoming, right? And Superman overcoming. And you say, "What? I'm so tired. I'm not good enough. I feel so beaten down." Well, that's not the case. Because have you ever seen an ugly baby? Have you ever seen an ugly puppy or an ugly kitten? They simply don't exist. And every one of us is a child at heart. Yes, a child. I was going to say a kid, but a child at heart, whether it's an innocent little girl or whether it's a cute little boy, rambunctious, however rambunctious he is, right? So every time we look in the mirror, what we want to see is the miracle of who we really are. And so that's what we overcome every single day, is to realize how absolutely extraordinary we really are. And when we stand up for truth, it not only benefits us, but it also paves the way for others when we fulfill our life mission. And so we've totally then changed the dynamics because we're in control of our emotions. We don't cry our way through it. We know it's not personal. We are here to encounter difficulties and to overcome them, and then to pave the path for those coming up behind us. in a way that they don't have to struggle in the same ways that we did, right? And so bad things do happen to good people. And sometimes it's those good people who are chosen as heroes. And so we can get into this whole discussion on, oh, is it really a bad thing, or does bad even exist? But, that's for another time and another video. But the truth is that we're here to help others who just may be slightly clueless or on the verge of jumping. So remember, the divine isn't punishing us at all, but rather we've been given a fabulous opportunity to elevate into the higher realms. As we raise our vibration, then we see things from a different perspective, and we're able to make light of it in a more positive way, and we aren't drawn down with the heaviness of the drama of life on planet Earth, right? And we can say thank you, or we can stay stuck. It just depends on how we want to live our life and from what perspective we want to see everything that we're going through. But remember, we don't see angels and saints and enlightened ones running around crying and blaming and suing and in despair, right? And we deal with whatever hurdles we have to jump over. And many times those hurdles have brought us to our knees. But we get up, we rise again, and we awaken the powerhouse of energy that is within us. And so even if we take baby steps, as long as we're on track and our goal is to call out the injustice as best we can, and in so doing, we mitigate the suffering of others. And so we wonder, have we been put in this position where we lose every time? Or were we laughed at when we tell the truth while the other side just keeps lying and winning, right? Or had painful circumstances that we never imagined existed, and had others hurt us, cheated us, slandered us, but because of who they know or who they pay, they continue to be protected, right? I mean, it happens probably more than we would ever have imagined, yes. And had those in positions of power denied to help us? Were we totally taken advantage of? Were the authorities, did they have the ability to make things right, but they ignored our calls for help? So were we given the runaround where no one was willing to help us? Did local government, were they able to help us? And sometimes we realize that actually, they were actually part of the problem to begin with, if you can believe that one. So sometimes unjust laws must be rewritten, and we are here to help others navigate the same waters that we had to swim and flounder in, right? And so we've learned so much because we were in the trenches, and that is the school. And it's not just the school for fish, but it is the school where we see what does work and what doesn't work. And then we're called upon to make those corrections and to voice our opinion about what isn't working so that we can make the path better for others. And so we see many opportunities where we have compassion for others and we want to share our strength and our ideas. And so we do this when we let go of victimhood, right? And victimhood is filled with trauma and drama and shame and blame. And so when we let that go, we then become the hero of our own story. And we don't have to be a writer, a mentor, an inventor, a scientist, or even a musician in order to leave a legacy. We can just be ourselves, and we can go from victim to hero. And so we can kind of draw a correlation between that and poker. You know, we are dealt a hand. Some we like and some we don't like, but that's the hand that we have to work with. And so the same goes in life, where we can turn a pity party into a Superman and Wonder Woman celebration of sorts, where we show up, we speak up, we buckle up, and we conquer whatever has been thrown in our way. right? And most times, oh, I didn't bring my water. That's what I really need now. So excuse me. But in most times, we're faced with ridiculous odds and we wonder, how did things go so wrong? How are we ever going to make things right? How are we going to straighten this out, right? Well, my claim to fame, as some of you may know, if you've heard my story, and believe me, if you haven't heard my story, it has nothing to do with my not trying to share my story. I have a sister and a son who seem to enjoy restricting my audience, or so I've been told, as they try to have me shadow banned and shut me up in more ways than one, let me tell you. And so they've restricted my audience, and so a lot of people that should have heard it, that could have heard it, that would have liked to have heard it, unfortunately, it wasn't made available to them. So as were certain emails, I had sent out emails to government entities and to social media and to Washington and to the governors and the senators and the congressmen and the mayors and all sorts of the Justice Department. And I did find out at one point that in fact they were blocking my emails. So somebody was on the computer while I was sending these out, and I guess as soon as I would type in to whom it would go, they would erase it, and it never went anywhere. So what happened was I would do blind CC to myself, and so it would come back to me. So I would be under the illusion that actually it went out, but in fact it didn't. And I spent days and days. I most recently sent out 1,000 emails, and I don't know how many of those actually made it. I guess some people have some diabolical plans in store for us because we are merely trying to tell the truth. And I was discussing my stolen inheritance with, I thought, individuals who would realize what was going on and would want to be of assistance, actually. And in fact, this is on a whole different story, but I just recently uncovered a plan a few days ago where an attorney who somehow got to be my Facebook friend sent me an article on mediation. And I love mediation. I believe that it's a much better alternative than litigation, actually. It's much more sane. However, 20 years ago, I was involved in mediation during my divorce, which was just like World War III. But it was because one party just said, I want everything, and if I don't get everything, I'm just going to keep suing you until I do. And so how can you possibly deal with someone like that? But in any event, in my divorce case, I realized that even though the mediator said, oh, you know, I'm not partial to anyone, and I'm going to be as much in your corner as his corner, and we're going to do this in a very civilized way. Well, in fact, he wasn't. He was actually paid for by the other side, and really said, if you don't cooperate, I'm going to label you as uncooperative. And so anyway, I refused to lose, which is exactly what he wanted me to do. And so we were back in the courtroom where the judge was lunching with some attorneys, the ex's attorneys, and they took not only my home and all my assets and all my investments, but they even took my children and everything else. And so when this mediator said he wanted to get together, I thought, oh, I wonder if he is working with my sister and my son who stole my inheritance. And that's my latest legal drama. And so I asked him if he knew my sister and my son, and he said, no, I don't know them. And so I thought that was a relief. But, you know, we have to be aware, and I was glad that I posed that question because sometimes, you know, when we don't even think that someone would be so deceptive. And so sometimes we just have to be careful and know that sometimes there are wolves in sheep's clothing. And so anyway, people try to get out under the radar, you know, but and I can't tell you, I guess I have a jaded perspective only because of my history, but I cannot tell you how many times my sister and son have had women setups to seduce the men in my life. Yes. Or they've had men setups to seduce me. And I thought, oh my gosh. Or people were lying about me and they said I did this and I said that, and I was never anywhere near them. So I certainly didn't say it and I didn't do it. But all we can do is just to trust our intuition and see that this is a game and realize that we have angels and spirit guides and ancestors and archangels and all kinds of heavenly helpers on the other side that are actually around us and helping us. And we have truth on our side. And if you don't have truth on your side, then you don't have a prayer, because karma is real. It is whatever we send out does come back to us. And as long as we are on the straight and narrow, and what we do, we don't do it from a place of malice or ill intention. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And we want it to be the right thing for everyone. And so when we have that frame of mind, then we know that ultimately things will go in our favor. And so anyway, that's what I think. 30 years ago, I must say, when I first saw the first divorce attorney, and I had been sued maybe 20 times in frivolous nuisance lawsuits by my ex, and where he had connections to win, and he won every time. And so he had paid the media to lie about the truth. And so there's so much bad publicity, that happened. It was on the evening news in Chicago and all kinds of things, and the front page of the Chicago Sun-Times, and just ridiculous things. It was just a divorce. And and then there were other lawsuits as well. There was a defamation lawsuit where I was sued for a letter I didn't even write. That just, nobody ever talked about that part of it, right? And so, anyway, so if I'm going to go back and give you a little background, yes, my ex-husband was my father's stockbroker, and he knew how much money my father had. And so my attorneys told me that even he had taken out a life insurance policy on me. And he was poisoning me. He actually admitted to poisoning me, even though my doctors thought maybe I was coming down with MS. But it was actually my husband at the time who was poisoning me. And I guess it was like a little sprinkle here and a little pour over there and a little spray. I don't know. I can't even imagine anyone being so diabolical. And I hear that sister and son worked with him. And so they now, in the second lawsuit for my inheritance, it's the sister and son who are repeating what happened in the first lawsuit, where my money and my home were stolen. Now my money and my home were stolen by my sister and my son. And so the bottom line, the reason I'm going into this is because it is beyond coincidence, right? There's actually a strategic energetic in the cosmos somewhere that says, Maria, this is what's going to happen to you. And if you haven't learned your lesson, you are going to get it again. And so I did. Not only did it happen with my ex, but it happened with my own family, my sister and my son. My husband, locked all the doors to my beautiful home and took my children and everything else. And that's what happened in the second one. My sister and my son changed the locks to my beautiful beachfront condo in Florida, and took my clothes and took everything, my tampons, my panties. I mean, they took everything. There was nothing left, and I wasn't allowed to even go anywhere near there. And they said if I even approached my home, the guard would call the police to have me removed and incarcerated. So I thought, oh my God, it's just a condo and it's mine. And so things repeat until we learn the lesson. What is it? They say repeat or evolve. And so apparently between the first and the second, I had not evolved. And so hopefully now, after being, blindsided twice, we do learn our lesson. A few weeks ago, I did send out, the first time I sent out a letter to 3,000 people when he told me he had bought the decision in Chicago. And so I sent out a letter telling me exactly what he told me. And so a few weeks ago, I sent out another letter about to 1,000 people, and it was titled $50 million stolen within the Pinellas County courthouse. And so we'll see. Haven't received any calls or anything really about that yet. There's a lot of secrecy and a lot of deception, and so we're going to wait and see. I think now the energetics of the planet are such that things are really being uncovered, and so I'm very hopeful in terms of that. We've been brought here to expose things, and so what we can do is we have to look at our life and we have to see what is the prevailing theme. And once we identify that, then it makes life so much easier, because we realize that is what we're being called to explore. And so when I left Chicago to come to Florida, I didn't realize that, what's the expression, you jump from the pot to the fire to the frying pan or something like that. Anyway, yeah, things are just repeated. That's just the way it is. And yet it wasn't as if they just went in and just took everything and cleaned it out. It was more like picking wings off a butterfly. You know, they say, oh my gosh, you have to be really crazy to do that. And they actually diagnose some children that have some deep-seated psychological issues that they would harm a butterfly and do that. They do that because it's more of suffering instead of just like crushing it or something. People do in litigation, and they try to extend the litigation and have it be very protracted, because it then creates more fees for the attorneys and it gets the judges busy. And so it is, it's what happens in litigation. Flames, it becomes a very inflammatory process, because people then are just more devastated by the destruction and by the deception and by the betrayal of one's own family when you're in some type of litigation, be it estate litigation like I was, or family law litigation like I was. And so anyway, so we realize that when we stand up for truth, what are our adversaries standing up for? And basically they're standing up for their lies and their crimes. And most of the people that would do that have some deep-seated psychological history, some psychopathology. Certainly that was going on with my family, actually, with my parents who had died. Untimely deaths, I might add, at the hands of their own family. Sometimes family sees matriarch and the patriarch, who have the money, right, as being expendable. And especially if they're rich, they just wipe them off the game board. And then they, like nasty rodents, just try to grab on to the money, the paintings, the sterling, the this, the that, the cars, oh, it's just gross, really. But that's what we do. So when we see this going on around us, and it happens. I mean, after all, more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. And the percentage of estate litigation where there is dishonesty and deception is certainly more than 50%, actually. And so I know in my case, there were over 100 attorneys. I know it sounds sick, doesn't it? More than 100 attorneys, judges, and experts. I should clarify that. And they don't come cheap. And so it was millions that they were paid for them. And you see that they're buying cars and they're buying jewelry, and they're going on vacations, and they're adding home additions, and you name it. While the people whose treasure chest, the people who have worked their life amassing this fortune, isn't even available then for their children to finish their education. Some people actually found it hilarious that when my inheritance was stolen, it was actually used. It was actually paid to people who would then use it to harm me. So people thought it was just hilarious that actually those that had my money were actually harming me. So I was being harmed by my own inheritance, which just sounds really sick. You know, You can't even imagine the level of psychopathology that some people have. But I don't even like to use the word narcissist, because more often than not, people say, oh, well, he had a temper tantrum or he called her a name or whatever, so he's a narcissist. Well, let me tell you, narcissists can be very, very malicious. They are highly dangerous individuals, and especially in dysfunctional dynamics between family members, they can really be deadly. And so when we use that term narcissists, don't just brush it off, because truly, if they are a malignant narcissist, it's not something to take lightly, truly. And so, there are many people on our planet now who are exhibiting quasi-Neanderthal-like behaviors, right? It's like me, Tarzan, because of who I know, and you're just a dumb chick, right? And you don't understand that I can buy anyone I want and I can do anything I want because everyone has a price. And I find that absolutely disgusting. I know it sounds like fiction, but trust me, it does go on. And many of us have had the displeasure of seeing that right up in center and right under our little noses. Yep. And so anyway, again, the bottom line is that we are here to learn how to become empowered. It's these adversaries who actually help us become stronger and more resilient. The role that we are here to play in our life and in the life of others. And so it's our life purpose, which is to help make this world a better place, a safer place for all. And so I trust that you learned something from it and that it was beneficial for you. And so I hope that it showed you a different perspective on your own life path, and you're better able to see your own life in a way where sometimes when things go wrong, you don't say, oh, I'm so cursed, or, oh, I have such bad luck. But in fact, you say, oh, wonder, what was the lesson? Maybe I am supposed to really do something about that. And so you can see things in a different perspective. And so you can transform from victim to hero. You deserve that. And so thank you for joining me tonight. And as always, I wish you a wonderful evening and a beautiful evening. And I love you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.